Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
The St. Louis Cardinals offseason has turned into an absolute circus, and we're pulling back the curtain on all the drama unfolding behind closed doors, from inflated player valuations that have executives scratching their heads across Major League Baseball to a broadcasting nightmare that could cripple the franchise financially. The Cardinals are facing their most turbulent winter in recent memory. And just when you thought things couldn't get worse, their division rivals are making power moves that could bury St. Louis for years to come. Let's start with the bombshell that's sending shockwaves through the baseball world. Ken Rosenthal, one of the most connected and respected insiders in the game, just threw a grenade into the Cardinals' carefully constructed trade plans. In his latest roundup of league whispers and executive gossip for The Athletic, Rosenthal dropped a revelation that should have Cardinals fans both excited and concerned. Brendan Donovan, the versatile utility player that St. Louis has been shopping like he's the second coming of Rogers Hornsby, might not be as valuable as President of Baseball Operations Chaim Bloom thinks he is. According to Rosenthal's sources, people who are actually in the room during these trade negotiations, there's a massive disconnect happening. The Cardinals are walking into meetings acting like Donovan is an untouchable superstar, while teams on the other end of the phone are looking at each other wondering if Bloom is serious. Rosenthal puts it bluntly in his piece, stating that it comes down to a fundamental difference in perceived value. The Cardinals view Donovan as a star player, while not all clubs see him that way. That's executive speak for the Cardinals are living in fantasy land. Now, before Cardinals fans start flooding the comments defending their guy, let's acknowledge what Donovan brings to the table. He's a solid, reliable player who can play multiple positions. He's under team control for 2 more years through arbitration at roughly $5 million annually, and he provides steady production. But here's where reality crashes the party. Donovan's WAR last season was significantly lower than other middle infielders currently available on the trade market. Rosenthal specifically calls out Nico Herner of the Chicago Cubs and Ketel Marte of the Arizona Diamondbacks as players with considerably better statistical profiles than Donovan, yet the Cardinals are negotiating as if those alternatives don't exist. This explains everything that's been puzzling about the Donovan situation. Reports have circulated that upwards of 20 to 22 teams have expressed interest in acquiring Brendan Donovan. That's more than 2/3 of Major League Baseball calling about one player. With that kind of demand, you'd think a deal would have been completed weeks ago. The Cardinals should have been able to create a bidding war that would net them a king's ransom in prospects. Instead, we're sitting here in mid-January with Donovan still wearing Cardinal red and bloom, apparently still waiting for some team to meet his astronomical asking price. The issue isn't that teams don't want Donovan, they absolutely do. The problem is that Bloom is reportedly asking for packages that would make you think he's trading away a perennial all-star rather than a versatile role player who hit 253 with a 703 OPS last season. When you're trying to extract a team's top prospect for a player that other executives view as a complementary piece rather than a centerpiece, you're going to hit resistance. And that resistance is exactly what's creating this stalemate. But here's where the situation gets interesting and where there might actually be hope for Cardinals fans who want to see a significant return for Donovan. While Herner and Marte might statistically be superior players, their availability is rapidly disappearing. The Diamondbacks' general manager has strongly indicated that he expects to keep Ketel Marte, essentially taking him off the market despite not making an official announcement. Meanwhile, the Cubs are making additions rather than subtractions, signaling they're in win-now mode and unlikely to trade away one of their better players. If those two alternatives vanish completely, suddenly Donovan becomes the best middle infielder available via trade by default. This is basic economics, supply and demand at its most fundamental. If Bloom can be patient enough to let the market come to him, if he can wait out other teams until they realize their other options have evaporated, then suddenly his valuation doesn't seem quite so unreasonable. Sure, 20 teams might want Donovan, but the Cardinals only need one team to blink first, one team desperate enough for middle infield help that they're willing to meet Bloom's price. That's the gamble Bloom is making right now, and the question becomes whether it's brilliant patience or stubborn foolishness. There's another wrinkle to this entire saga that's been revealed through insider reporting, and it changes the calculation significantly. According to sources close to the negotiations, if the Cardinals were willing to accept position player prospects instead of holding out for pitching prospects, a deal would have been completed already. Multiple organizations have been far more open to moving their top hitting prospects than their pitching prospects, which makes perfect sense when you understand the economics of baseball development. Teams have reportedly offered packages centered around top 20 or top 30 hitting prospects in their systems, but the Cardinals have consistently pushed back because they're laser focused on acquiring starting pitching. And honestly, can you blame them? The Cardinals' rotation has been a consistent weakness, and Bloom knows that building through development rather than free agency is the only sustainable path for a franchise that refuses to spend at the top of the market. Starting pitchers are inherently more valuable than position players when you're doing prospect evaluation, and they're rarer, they're more expensive to acquire in free agency, and you need more of them to fill out a competitive roster. If a hitting prospect and a pitching prospect are ranked consecutively in the top 100 prospects in baseball, the pitching prospect almost always gets valued higher by front offices. This creates a fascinating strategic question for Cardinals management. Do you stay the course and continue demanding pitching prospects, knowing it might take longer to find the right deal? Or do you accept a potentially larger haul of position player prospects and figure out the pitching problem later? For a team that historically hasn't shown a willingness to spend big money on free agent pitchers, waiting for the right pitching prospect makes a ton of sense. This might be the Cardinals' best opportunity to land a legitimate starting pitching prospect without giving up a major league asset they actually want to keep. Someone like D'Angelo Cena from the Seattle Mariners, who's been frequently mentioned in connection with the Cardinals, could be exactly the kind of high upside arm that transforms the organization's future. The Mariners remain one of the most logical trade partners for St. Louis, and not just because they've been mentioned repeatedly in rumors. Seattle has 7 prospects ranked in baseball's top 100, creating organizational depth that few teams can match. 4 of those 7 are position players, and Seattle has been reportedly more flexible about moving hitting prospects than pitching prospects, which aligns perfectly with what we know about the broader trade market. Names like Michael Arroyo, Colt Emerson, Lázaro Montes, and Johnny Farmelo represent the kind of elite young talent that could accelerate the Cardinals' rebuild significantly. But if the Cardinals are truly committed to landing pitching, then someone like Cena becomes the target, even if it means accepting a slightly smaller overall package. The Kansas City Royals continue to lurk in these conversations as well, representing another AL Central team with prospect depth and a need for the kind of versatility Donovan provides. But let's be honest about where this appears to be heading. The Cardinals probably aren't going to land anyone's number 1 overall prospect at this point. That ship sailed when teams started balking at Bloom's initial asking price. What's more realistic is a package built around a team's number 3 prospect plus a second piece in their top 10. That's still a significant return for a player of Donovan's caliber and would represent a successful navigation of a difficult trade market. While the Cardinals have been spinning their wheels trying to move Donovan, their most hated rivals have been making power moves that should terrify every St. Louis fan. The Chicago Cubs just pulled off one of the splashier trades of the entire offseason by acquiring Edward Cabrera from the Miami Marlins. To land the dynamic young right-hander, Chicago surrendered their number 1 prospect, the 47th overall prospect in all of baseball. This isn't some lottery ticket flyer on a project player. This is the Cubs going all in on contention right now. Cabrera represents exactly the kind of high-ceiling talent that can transform a rotation. His stuff is absolutely electric, featuring dynamic movement on his pitches and a fastball that routinely touches the upper 90s. While he hasn't fully put everything together yet, posting a 3.5 ERA last season on a dreadful Marlins team shows real promise. Now imagine what he can do with the Cubs' superior defensive support and coaching infrastructure. He immediately slots in as their number 2 starter behind Matthew Boyd, who emerged as one of baseball's better pitchers last year and gives Chicago a genuinely formidable 1-2 punch at the top of their rotation. But wait, it gets worse for Cardinals fans. The Cubs aren't done spending or trading. Ken Rosenthal's reporting indicates that Chicago is also heavily involved in pursuing both Alex Bregman and Mookie Betts in potential trades or signings. This was reported even before the Cabrera deal became official, which means the Cubs were already planning to push their chips to the center of the table before they even made their first big move. The Cabrera acquisition only reinforces the obvious conclusion that Chicago is going for it, building a roster designed to dominate the National League Central for the foreseeable future. Let's all take a moment of silence for what this means. The Cardinals are tearing down and rebuilding while their arch rivals are constructing a potential juggernaut. If the Cubs successfully add Bregman or Betts to a roster that already includes Cabrera and Boyd, we're looking at a team that could run away with the division for the next several years. For Cardinals fans who remember the magical runs of the 2000s and early 2010s, this role reversal is absolutely brutal to watch. The team that's supposed to be baseball's model franchise is getting lapped by the team we're supposed to hate more than any other. And before you ask, no, we can't just root for nobody to win the division. We can't root for the Pirates because, let's be honest, nobody actually likes the Pirates except Pirates fans, and there aren't that many of those. The Reds are perpetually stuck in mediocrity. The Brewers are the Brewers, and now we're left watching the Cubs potentially ascend to division dominance, while the Cardinals deliberately tank. This is the darkest timeline for St. Louis baseball, and we're living through it in real time. Just when you thought the Cardinals' offseason couldn't get any more chaotic, a financial disaster has emerged that nobody saw coming. The team's broadcasting situation has imploded in spectacular fashion, creating uncertainty that could impact everything from payroll flexibility to how fans will even watch games next season. FanDuel Sports Network, which currently holds the Cardinals' broadcasting rights, is owned by a parent company called Diamond Sports Group, which operates under the Main Street Sports Group umbrella. That company just missed a contractual payment to the Cardinals, which represents a breach of contract that fundamentally changes the entire relationship. This wasn't some minor administrative hiccup or a payment that showed up a few days late. This was a complete failure to meet contractual obligations, which gives the Cardinals the legal right to renegotiate terms or seek entirely new broadcasting arrangements. According to reporting from Katie Wu, one of the best-connected Cardinals insiders in the business, this development caught the organization completely off guard. The Cardinals are now scrambling to figure out their next move, and the timing couldn't be worse as they're also trying to navigate a delicate rebuild that requires maximizing every financial resource. The implications here extend far beyond just the Cardinals. Main Street Sports Group currently provides broadcasting services for the Braves, Reds, Tigers, Royals, Angels, Marlins, Brewers, Cardinals, and Rays. That's 9 franchises, all potentially facing the same uncertainty, creating a widespread crisis across Major League Baseball's broadcasting landscape. The fact that so many teams are tied to one struggling entity shows just how fragile the regional sports network model has become in the streaming era. The Cardinals essentially have 3 options on the table right now. Option 1 is to renegotiate with Main Street Sports Group and accept significantly less money than their original contract guaranteed. This is reportedly the most likely scenario unless something dramatic changes, but it would mean taking a substantial financial haircut that directly impacts their ability to spend on payroll. Option 2 is that Main Street Sports Group gets bought out by another entity willing to honor the original contract terms, though discussions about potential buyouts haven't produced anything concrete yet. Option 3, and this is where things get really interesting, is that the Cardinals could move their broadcasting entirely to Major League Baseball's in-house streaming service. MLB already operates as the broadcast provider for approximately 7 teams who found themselves in similar situations after their regional sports networks collapsed. The Arizona Diamondbacks and San Diego Padres were among the first to make this transition when Diamond Sports Group dropped their contracts, and they've remained with MLB's service since. The Cardinals have already stated publicly that they're willing to have all 162 games streamed through MLB's platform if necessary, which suggests they've been planning for this contingency, even if they didn't expect it to happen quite so soon. From a fan perspective, it's hard to imagine the broadcasting situation getting much worse than it's been. The production quality on FanDuel Sports Network has been inconsistent at best. The distribution has been limited compared to the old Fox Sports Midwest days, and many fans have already cut the cord and found alternative ways to watch games. Moving to MLB's streaming service might actually improve accessibility and quality, though it would represent a major shift in how Cardinals baseball is consumed. The financial implications for the organization are far more concerning than the fan experience, as any reduction in broadcasting revenue directly impacts the team's ability to compete, even in a year when they're planning to be mediocre anyway. Katie Woo's reporting indicates that a final decision on the Cardinals' broadcasting future should be announced soon, possibly within the next few weeks. Whatever they decide will have ripple effects, not just for this season, but potentially for years to come. If they accept less money from Main Street Sports Group, that reduced revenue becomes the baseline for future negotiations. If they move to MLB's platform, they're essentially trusting the league office to adequately compensate them for their broadcast rights in a rapidly evolving media landscape. And the cruel irony in all of this is that the Cardinals plan to be bad this year anyway. They're in the middle of a deliberate rebuild, trading away major league talent for prospects and explicitly telling fans not to expect contention in 2026. Under normal circumstances, a reduction in broadcast revenue during a rebuilding year wouldn't be catastrophic because you're not trying to compete for championships anyway. But the uncertainty this creates for future years is the real problem. When the Cardinals are ready to spend again, when those prospects they're acquiring start reaching the majors and the team wants to supplement with free agent additions, will they have the financial flexibility to do so if their broadcasting revenue has been permanently reduced? So where does all of this leave the Cardinals as we move deeper into January? They're stuck in a holding pattern on their biggest trade chip, while their asking price apparently exceeds what most teams are willing to pay. Their division rivals are making aggressive win-now moves while St. Louis deliberately tears down, and their entire financial infrastructure is being threatened by a broadcasting crisis that materialized out of nowhere. This is not how anyone envisioned this offseason unfolding. But here's the thing that Cardinals fans need to remember. Chaim Bloom was brought in specifically because he's supposed to be smarter than the average front office executive. His track record with the Tampa Bay Rays showed an ability to extract maximum value from trades while building sustainable winner through player development. The patience he's showing with the Donovan trade might look like stubbornness right now, but it could be vindicated if he ultimately lands the pitching prospect he's targeting. The broadcasting situation is completely outside his control, but how the organization responds to this crisis will reveal a lot about the leadership's competence. This is the reality of Cardinals baseball in 2026. It's messy, it's frustrating, and it's filled with more questions than answers. But it's also the beginning of something that could eventually lead back to contention if the right moves are made. The pieces are on the board, the negotiations are happening behind closed doors, and soon we'll know whether Bloom's gambles pay off or whether the Cardinals rebuild is going to take even longer than anyone anticipated. What do you think, Cardinals fans? Is Chaim Bloom overvaluing Brendan Donovan, or is he playing the long game brilliantly? Should the Cardinals accept position player prospects and move on, or is holding out for pitching the right strategy? And what about this broadcasting disaster? Are you worried about the long-term implications, or do you trust that the organization will figure it out? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because this conversation is just getting started. Make sure you smash that like button if you want more in-depth Cardinals coverage, and subscribe so you don't miss a single update as this chaotic offseason continues to unfold. The drama is far from over, and we'll be here covering every twist and turn as the Cardinals navigate the most uncertain period in franchise history.
Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.